So we're going to work on the oblique part of this right here. Later on in another video we'll deal with the isometric. But for now we're doing with oblique. And the way oblique works is this. And what we're going to do is I'm going to depart from the presentation for a moment and give you what I think will be a helpful initial look at the way this is going to work. So let me do this. Alright, and so here is our situation. We are going to sketch a cube. Let's see if this comes across. Too big? We can do this. Here. Let's see what this looks like. Alright. So we're going to sketch a cube. Looks like this. We're not going to worry about the wood grain or anything like that, but we are going to sketch this shape. Now earlier, this would be a really easy sketch to make because we would just have sketched one face. But now we want to do types of sketching that show us the other dimensions that are involved. And one way to do that is oblique sketching. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off, we always with obliques, we start by making the one face, just like we would have done for our sketches before. So for the cube, we're going to go with a square face. Let's say, let's make it 4 blocks by 4 blocks. So I start by making one face, just as if I was sketching it face on, front on. And we're going to do it twice, because I'm going to show you there's 2 different ways to do this. One's called, for oblique sketching, one's called Cavalier, and the other one's called Cabinet. Don't ask me where the names come from. I have no idea. So I draw these, and I'm going to make them pretty dark because these are object lines. And then for each of them, I'm going to make a set of, if you recall, we call construction lines. Very light colored lines. And in this case, I want them to go back and up at 45 degrees. 45 degrees is a diagonal across these squares. So I'm just going to really light line. I'll probably erase some of it later. Definitely will. From these 2 and this one down here. Just really light construction lines. And I'll do the same here. So we'll do that for all of those particular sides. So we're looking at right now top, front, and right view. Top, front, and right for each of these. Now, with the Cavalier, what we do is we go back this way whatever the dimension is supposed to be. So since this is a cube, that dimension is the same as these, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks. So what I do is I'm going to demonstrate this. I'm going to take a piece of scrap paper, and I'm going to mark off 4 blocks long. And I'm going to go that far back along this line. Notice you can't count the blocks because you're going diagonally, and so diagonally is a bigger distance than just one side. So I have to mark it off like so. And it's going to be here, here, and I'll do the same thing back here. All these are going to go back 4. Then I'm going to finish the sketch by putting in object lines, making them darker, connect these across here, almost to that line, like so. And you'll note, probably, when you look at this, that doesn't look like a cube. I mean, this looks too far back, and that's one of the reasons cabinet is usually the better way to go. Because with the cabinet, what we do is we go half as far back. And I say back because we're going for appearances here. So if this distance is 4, like it was before, we're only going to go 2 back. So I'm going to turn my paper, and I'm going to mark off 2 back for all these. So we go at a 45-degree angle back, but we only go 2 blocks long. And everybody should match up when we're done. Draw object lines, and we're good to go. Make this one a little darker. So cabinet, we go half as far. Cavalier, we go full distance back, so to speak. If the side we're drawing is, supposed to be 3 blocks, we go 3 blocks. But remember, you'll have to mark it off on your piece of paper. So, proceeding back over to here. This is just one type of pictorial drawing. These oblique ones. There's two. You can see the cabinet and the Cavalier and the difference between them. This is called isometric. We'll get to that later, and we'll also get to perspective drawing later. Perspective probably being the most realistic. With oblique, we always start with a straight-on view. So like we did in our square, we start with one, pick a side, and we start with that. So here you can see these shaded pieces are what they picked. And so we start with that square, which is this one. This square here on the drawing, which is this one. And then this face here, which is set back, but it's still on that side of the object. And then they go from there. And in this case, like we did, 45 is the easiest ones to draw, so they draw lines back at 45 degrees. You can also do it at 30 and 60, but I think 45 is what we'll predominantly use. Whoops. And they talked about the Cavalier and the cabinet and the difference between. So this is what we just did. We used the full height, full width for both, but we only go halfway back. It's interesting that if you measured it, take the time, you can measure this distance with a ruler, and then you measure this distance here, they're the same, even though they may not look it to your eye. And while we're at it, let me just point out that during the course of this video, I'm going to keep moving. If you have, I'm assuming that you'll stop at any time when you want to practice yourself or get caught up, that you can just hit pause. So if I'm moving too fast, you have control since this is a screencast. Go ahead and pause me. I won't mind. Waiting for it. There we go. All right, so the first step in drawing these is oftentimes, particularly the more complicated shapes, is to draw yourself a box to get a feel for things. A box in which that thing would sit, just big enough to make it sit. So whatever the width and the height is, we sketch that. So that's what this rectangle would represent right here. It's the first one we'd sketch. It'd be this right here. That's the front view. And then we go back as far as we need to. So in the Cavalier, we go back the full distance. Here we go back. In the cabinet, we go back half as far. And once again, they do 45 as well, which is the easiest to do. So let's try this for the object that they're giving us, this object right here.